All right, so we'll get started. Week four. Week four, we're going to talk about must know design principles to create awesome user interface. All right, so we're going to talk about design principles which are must for a UI designer to know. Right? I mean, once you have a good understanding about these principles, you will definitely be able to create user interface which will be like awesome. Okay, so let's get started. Disclaimer. So let's talk about design principles. So very important. Okay, when you're calling yourself a designer, you need to really understand design principles. All right. Now this is not specifically these principles, not specifically restricted to UI only. These are design principles. It means it get applied to every design you do, be it graphic design, be it UI design, be it furniture design, be it textile design, be it metal design, whatever you do. All right, this philosophy or these principles get applied to every branches of design. Okay, so what are those principles? What is this principles are all about, right? What are these principles are? The first one is simplicity. We'll talk about each of this topic in the following sections. Okay, so first one, simplicity. Next, consistency, usability, accessibilities, feedback, visual hierarchy, contrast, white space, affordance, flexibility, and last, error prevention and recovery. When I was designing this course, I thought of providing 10 design principles, but can't resist myself. But I have put 11 number as well, which is error prevention, which is very important for a designer to understand. Okay, so let's go ahead. Before we start, again, I'm telling you what I'm going to give you is the foundational knowledge of each of this topic, right? You need to go and study more about all these topics, right? These are very core principles. I mean, you need to really master this to become a kick-ass designer, kick-ass UI designer. Okay, so I will give you a foundational, I'll give you a material which will help you to get started with each of this topic, but you have to go back and study more about all these topics. Okay, let's go ahead. First one, simplicity. The principle of simplicity states that UI design should be simple and easy to understand for user. The first principle, and very important, that your design should be simple and easy to understand. Don't make it too complicated for a user to understand, right? Users are generally in a hurry, right? They want to complete something as fast as possible. If you make it complex, your user will get lost into the maze of your design, and they will not really execute their goals, right? And they will drop off from your applications, right? So it need to be very simple and easy to understand. One of the biggest example I can give of the simplicity is Google's homepage. I mean, no BS here, right? It's simple. It's bang on there. What do you want to do with Google? You want to search, and that box is there. That's it, right? There is no other elements which will distract you from searching something, right? It's as simple as this. And before Google, we had this kind of experience for search. So you understand the simplicity why Google won the battle with search engines is because it's very simple. It made sure that the interface is intuitive and easy to use, right? Let's move on. I'll show you some more examples, right? Another example. My God, this is a Word, Microsoft Word experience long ago when they launched, I guess. Look at this. I mean, you get overwhelmed by understanding where should you really do your things. I mean, if I just have to change the font weight to bold, I mean, I need to really look at where exactly is bold, right? I mean, it was an experience using this kind of things. Okay, cool. Fast forward, they have changed it now. They have made it more simpler and easy to use. They have grouped a lot of elements together, and they have, created a level of navigations inside their application. If you remember, when I talked about navigations, we talked about there's a system which we do called cart sorting, right? They must have done this inside this application as well. They have grouped a lot of different options into one buckets, right? You can see at the top, home, insert, design, right? So they named it, and then accordingly they have categorized it. Cool. So here is another example how we are moving towards simplicity, and this is one of the biggest example I can give you about simplicity. If you look at the way we had our vehicle, our telephone, our chair, and our clothes, you know, way back when we invented these things, it was too much of thing, right? And slowly we're moving towards simplicity. We're moving toward minimalistics, right? You can see this car from here to here. Here we're moving towards making things simple. If you look at this telephone as well, we're making things pretty simple, right? Chair, look at this chair, look at this cloth. So simplicity is going to win. I mean, if you make your application complex, your user will drop. So you need to really focus on making your user interface simple. Now the questions comes in as to how to make our design simple and easy to understand. Right? We understand the benefits of making products, making the user interface simple, but how do we do it? Right? Here are some steps you can try. Number one, always make sure that the form follows the function. Always. All right. What are forms? Your forms are your elements, your text box, your CTAs, your images, your icons, your illustrations. All these are forms. Your colors, your typography, everything. All these are forms, and each of this element has to have a function. In an interface, any of this form doesn't have a function, you should remove it then and there. Say, for example, you have created a beautiful interface, and in the background, you have put a gradient. Does this grade? You ask yourself, does that gradient in the background have a function? If yes, keep it. But if it is no, then remove it. The more you remove by asking these questions, the simpler and clean your UI will become. So always remember this principle. This is a very big principle. I want you guys to go ahead and research more about it. It is a concept from architecture, so it gets applied in your everywhere. It gets applied in every design space, right? So make sure that every forms follow should have a function. This is one. Number two, always think from a first principle thinking basis. I mean, if you are designing something, right? Just forget about all the complexity we live into this world, right? Just think from a perspective, how can I make someone's life better with this UI? What is the core thing which we are solving, right? If I have a screen, if I have to design a screen, right? I need to really understand what is the core problem I'm solving. And others, I don't really have to think about for some time. Don't think about that for some time. Just think from a first principle thinking basis, right? What is the core thing which you are solving, and just work for that part. Number three, make sure you don't break the user conventions. Very important, right? If users are habitual of scrolling up and down, right? Don't make them scroll left to right, right? I've seen a lot of websites, a single page website, where user will land into the website, and the first thing they will do is scroll down, right? This is one of the convention. There are many such conventions which you have to really understand by doing some research, right? So don't break those conventions, and your user your application will be easy, will be simple. Hmm? Number four, build it as per your user's mental model. I've explained about user model also in the earlier session, but build it according to the user mental models, right? Think from how your application is building a mental model inside the brain of your user, and whatever you're doing next, you should align it with the user's mental model. And number five, follow design principles. The principles which we are going to talk about today, this 11 principles, follow it diligently. This is how you can make your design simple and easy to understand. Oh, okay. I missed the last one. Don't build on intuition. Get it tested with your user, right? We generally build on our intuition. We think that this gonna solve the problem which we are trying to solve, right? We create it out of our intuitions. We create the design out of intuitions, right? Don't do it, right? Even if you have created it, get it tested with your validate with your user. Okay, so this is must. Cool. So these are the six steps which you should do to make your design simple and easy to understand. All right. So next up, consistency, right? Very important. If you are looking at the slides which I'm presenting, right, they all are consistent as well since the week one, if you have noticed that. Okay. So what exactly is consistency? The principle of consistency states that UI design should be consistent across an interface and throughout the application, throughout an entire product. Color, if you're using CTA of same color, use it everywhere. Use the same color everywhere. Okay. So here are some example. If you look at the screen here, if you look at the design here, you can see a lot of things. I mean, this header and this header doesn't really match. And look at this UI. I mean, do you feel good about it? I mean, look at this subtext here and look at the subtext here. Look at the space here and space here. Look at this icon here. Right? It doesn't really, it isn't consistent. And when things are not consistent, how does it look? It look, oh, right? It doesn't look really good. Whereas if you make things consistent, look how different it look now. It looks subtle. It looks beautiful. It looks easy to your eyes. I know that from the fact that this and this are header, this is subtext, uh, it's pretty obvious, right? Because things are consistent now. Another example. All right, you can see the three CTAs here. You can put your comment in the chat and how many inconsistency you can see in this. Okay, I'll wait for 5 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So your task is to write how many inconsistency you can see in this box here. Okay, so I can start giving you a couple of them. I mean, there's a shadow here, there is no shadow here. The shapes are not consistent, right? The border are not consistent, right? How does it should look like? This is how it should be. Everything should be consistent. And when you have this kind of consistency in your application, what you get is user trust. That user understand I have to click here to achieve my goal. If you have inconsistency, you are putting a cognitive load in your user's mind. Should I click it or not? What would be the outcome? Because it's not consistent, right? When I say sign up, it should take me to sign up page, right? And if I have a weird sign up button there, not really telling me that it's a part of the interface, user will really think about it. Should I click it or not? Okay, so consistency is pretty important. All right, so we'll move on to next topic, which is usability. Now, usability is a big topic in under user experience. As I've told you earlier, is that user experience is a bigger picture and UI is a subset of UX. Usability is also a subset of UX, just like research, just like interaction design, just like information architecture. Usability is also one part of experience, okay, wherein we take care of the usability of the application. So the principle of usability state that UI design should be designed with the needs and ability of a user in mind, which is very important to understand. The needs, you should design your applications in accordance with the needs of the user. And the next line is very important again. It says ability of user. You have to take care of the ability of your user while designing the application. When I talk about ability, you need to understand how educate your, say for example, how educate is your target audience, and accordingly have to put your copy there, right? If they don't understand some big jargons, you need to really trim down into into a layman perspective words there. So you need to really understand your user and their abilities, and then you design your interface. There are five things which I generally looked at while looking at the usability of it. Number one is that your design should be aesthetically pleasing, right? Without this, it is difficult to get your user attention. The first part is to get your design uh, um, make you should make your design aesthetically pleasing, right? It's also one of the principle which I talked about in the session one, where we have three level of design. So the first one is the visceral level. So it's talk about that. Second is that your design should be effective. That users should be able to achieve the said goals. Whatever user has come to achieve in your application, they should be able to do it. If that is not there, I mean, number two is not there, then I mean, the app, the website doesn't really exist, right? It is prime important that whatever is the core goal of a user, they should be able to do it when they come to the website or the application. Number three, it should be easy to use. I've already explained this in the simplicity part of it. So it should be easy for a user to use it. It should be easy to learn and memorize. This is also very important, right? So it should be easy for a user to learn and to memorize, so that next time when the user comes in, they should be able to understand where I can go and get all these things done again. Okay, and here conventions really play a big part. All right, so you really have to design according to the user convention and user mental model. Five, should be prone to error. Human will definitely makes error, and it is our job as a designer to make the system prone to error. When you checked all these five things, your usability will be checked. I mean, your usability will be there. The usability of the application will be there. Okay, cool. I mean, usability again. What I want to really tell you about this usability is can be a different course altogether. Okay, it's huge. It's big, because you see aesthetic is coming there, uh, effectiveness is coming there, easy to use is coming there, easy to learn coming there. All these are huge topics, right? You need to learn psychology as well, a bit of psychology. I'm not taking the entire subject of psychology, but how you really understand user, from that perspective, you need to really understand the psychology as well. Okay, so that was three. Let's move on. Number four is accessibilities. The principle of accessibility states that UI design should be designed to be accessible to all users, including those with disabilities or impairments. Okay, so your design should be uh, accessible by anyone, right? Anyone. I mean, they might have any kind of difficulties, right? Senior people, people with special abilities. I mean, they're not able to see, or they are not able to walk. So you need to take care of every aspect of human and design it accordingly, so that everyone can use your application. Okay, here the most important part is when you really make your application accessible by all this, uh, you know by all these people. What you are making is you're making a universal design. Your design become universal. Now there's a benefit of making your design universal. I'll give an example here. Say you have a secondary navigation. If you can remember, last week we talked about navigation. So secondary navigation, and there you have menu options, right? And your menu option doesn't really have an icon there, right? So the person with I mean, say, who is not well educated, will not be able to read all those all those menu option. I mean, they will never know as to where should I go and do certain things. However, putting the icon there, right? Because we know from psychology that we understand the pattern rather than reading the text. So the person who are not well educated, they will also understand that I need to go here to achieve something. That's an indication for people who are not well educated. Now the advantage of this is this, that people with normal education, I mean with good education, it helped them to scheme that quickly and get it done quickly. I mean, whatever they want to do it, by looking at the icon, they understand, okay, this is where I have to go. I don't have to read the text part of it. So this way, what you are doing is you are helping one part of your user, and that benefit is being transferred to the other part of the user, right? That's called universal design. Okay. Another example I can give you is of um, so 8% of men are generally are colorblind, right? They cannot differentiate colors, mostly green and red, the shade between green and red, right? And now that you are designing a UI, if you put more emphasis on the color, right, there might be chances that user who fall under this 8% category will not be able to differentiate as to which option they have to select, right? Hence, putting an icon helps. They will really understand what I need to do. I mean, you're not just relying on the colors. You are also putting an icon there so that this 8% people can really uh, really can use your application. Okay, so make your design accessible. All right, there are a lot of other things which you have to take care of while making the design accessible. We'll talk about it here. So how to make sure that user interface is accessible? First one, focus on the simplicity. Make your application as simple as possible. We have talked about it on first part, right? Number two, create UI with proper visual hierarchy. We'll talk about hierarchy in next topics, right? I'm going to explain about what exactly is visual hierarchy, but you should make sure that your UI follows the proper hierarchies, right? And number three, make sure there is a proper contrast being applied to each element. Contrast is also, again, we're going to talk about in next part. So make sure that it's a properly contrasted. Do not rely only on colors to differentiate element, which I have just given an example of 8% men are colorblind, right? So do not just rely on colors. Whenever you are playing around with colors, make sure that you have another affordance or another signifiers there, which can tell people with color blindness that what needs to be done. Okay, so that was all about accessibilities. You can learn more, as I've told you, right? This is just basics. You can go and learn more about it. You can visit WCAG, which is a repository or the organization which takes care of web accessibility. So they have a lot of different principles there, which you can learn and understand more. Okay, so we'll move on now. Next is feedback. The principal feedback states that UI design should provide clear and immediate feedback to user to help them understand the consequences of their action, right? Our design should tell our user that if you do this, this is what's going to happen, right? So are you sure you want to do it, right? For that we use this kind of thing, remember? So are you sure you want to delete this post? This post will be deleted permanently. This will delete this post permanently. You cannot undo this action. This is feedback, right? We know that user has clicked delete, and we're confirming with the user by saying, if you do this, this is going to happen. Are you sure you want to do it, right? So this is feedback. Another feedback is here at the bottom. You can see um, they are somebody is trying to pay something to some amount to someone, and there's a message there, right? Which is again informing user that if you do this, this is what's going to happen. Okay, so we are making our user understand the consequences of their action. Feedback also is also about, I mean, those who are in India, they will understand if you make a Google payment or a payment from Paytm, the moment it is done, there is a sound which get played, right? That is also a feedback, which is confirming that your payment has been done. Okay, so by implementing all these things, we can make design uh, more reliable, more trustworthy, right? Your user will really trust you that, oh, whenever I'm doing something wrong, this they are always giving me option as to what's need to be done. All right, so now let's talk about visual hierarchy, and this is very important. Okay, the principle of visual hierarchy states that UI design should use visual clues such as size, color, contrast, and typography to guide user attention and indicate the relative importance of different element of the interface on the interface. Okay, now look at this image. What do you read first? You will read this first, right? You will read this first, and then you will read this, and then you will read this or this, and last you will read this. Right? This is how the visual hierarchy really works. The bigger the the attention will be grabbed first. The bigger thing will grab the attention first, and then slowly will go down. This is the concept of visual hierarchy. Okay, I'll give you another example which is very very interesting. Now look at this image. Okay, I I cannot really understand. I mean, who is bigger here, the man? I mean, the man or the whale, right? If I just play around with size, look how it can really convey the message. Now I can really say that whale is really really big, right? Just playing around with size. This is called visual hierarchy. Okay. Another example. What do you see the first thing? You must see. You must have seen this first, and then this, and the other elements later on, right? This is how you need to design your interface so that your user can be guided as to what needs to be read first and then later and then later. Okay. All right. So let's move on to next, which is contrast. The principle of contrast says that UI design should use contrasting element such as typography, colors to create visual interest and improve readability, which is very important. Okay. So improve readability. Now, can you make a difference as to what will happen? I mean, you want your user to do something. I mean, will your user be able to understand what I need to do, dismiss or update now? I mean, what what do we want my user to do, right? What do we want our user to do here? It's not clear. If you apply the contrast philosophy here, this is how we should have designed it. I mean, I wanted my user to click on update now, not dismiss. There is a weightage which is given to update now, and user will definitely do that first because that's how we want our user to do it, not dismiss, right? Here's another example. I mean, I have already shown this UI earlier as well. uh, you can see this part here. Other parts are fine, but you don't see anything. I mean, it's just bland. It's just text there. There is no contrasting thing. I mean, there is no interest here, right? Now what happened if I just start putting some contrast? Look at this. I mean, it's a good contrast here, right? Good contrast here. And using this kind of things, you can really make your UI design beautiful. I mean, interesting. Okay, this is the concept of contrast. I have talked about contrast earlier as well. I mean, how are you placing? I mean, this font size. I mean, color on blue are a good having a good contrast. I mean, the readability is there. I can easily read it. This is one concept of contrast. The other is this, right? The header is bigger, so this and this have good contrast between them, right? Because this is not really coming in way of reading this. When I complete this, I will read this, right? So there's a contrast there. All right. So next is white space. White space is also known as negative space. So let's talk about it. So the principle of white space, also known as negative space, states that UI design should use empty or blank space around design element to create balance and visual clarity. Look at this UI here. It doesn't really, I mean, when I see this, it doesn't really giving your elements a breathing space. It seems like breathless. There is no space here. There's no space here. The space is less here. I cannot really differentiate between this and this. There is no proper use of negative space here. Now, when we redesign this is how it will look like. We have ample space. You can see the space here has been improved by giving this space. What happened is this two elements has been separated, right? They look different now. And if you look at this now here, this look like a header, which is a big header, the H1, and then I have the another content here, right? And look at the space here, which has been improved. Space here, which has been improved. Now all the elements are breathing. I mean, all the elements have proper space around them, and they are really breathing. This is what we say. Uh, this is ample space for each of the content here. Another example, which is beautiful example here. Now look at this space here. I mean, it does really seems like breathless, not giving you ample space for every design to really think. I mean, give some space to them, right? And if you see this, there is a lot of space, which looks easy, which looks uh, simple, right? So this is the power of white space, right? So and this spaces, if you can remember, we talked about grid system. So your grid should define this space and this space. Pixel, specifically pixel grid. Okay, they define the spaces here. If you give good space, your design looks easy. Design look, I mean, easy to eyes, and it looks beautiful. Okay, next topic is affordance. The principle of affordance states that UI design should use visual cues to indicate the function or purpose of an interface element. Okay, so if you look at this, your CTA, I mean, this CTA does really give me an affordance that I can press it. This give an affordance that I can write something inside this. Here also I can write or type something there. This give me an affordance that I can press it, right? We have been using buttons since ages, right? To click and do something on our physical devices, I guess, right? So they represent, they give this kind of affordance to the UI elements. So that is all about affordance. So you need to give affordance to every element, design elements you are putting inside your application. Here's a better example. Now this button really gives me a feel that it's a button, I can press it, but this doesn't really give me the feeling that I can press it. It's just like a normal text here, right? This is the difference. This is with the affordance, this is without the affordance. So when you put up this, I mean, when you create this as a button, it does give you a affordance performing action. I mean, clue is shapes in the border. Here there is nothing. I mean, it doesn't really give me any affordance. It seems like I can just read it. I mean, how would you let your user click that subscribe text here, right? Impossible. This really gives me the affordance that I can press it. Okay, this is all about affordance. Next is flexibility. States The principle of flexibility states that the UI design should be adaptable to different devices, screen sizes, and user needs. All right. So the biggest example is responsiveness. Your design uh, can be can be can be used in any screen sizes. So make sure that designs are flexible enough, right? Here, I mean, the 12 column grid, which I talked about in the last session, the 12 column grid, and then for iPad 8 column, and then for mobile 4 column, that really comes handy. Okay, so you need to really design according to the column systems, and then your design will be flexible enough. Okay, last and very, very important. Okay, the principle of error prevention and recovery states that UI design should be designed to prevent errors and provide clear instruction on how to recover from them. Okay, it's very important that we should prevent errors. The design should prevent the errors, and then it also provide clear instruction how to recover from them if the user has mistakenly done an error. Now, now mind it, humans will make error, will definitely make error. Everyone make errors, right? And you design your system according to that. Okay, here are some example. Remember this attachment reminder. If you have wrote something in Google Gmail and you say please find the attach and you send the email, Google will remind you by saying, hey, have you forgotten to attach a file? Right, that's an error which I was about to make. My system is smart enough to provide me a prompt that, oh, you wrote attachment, but you don't really have an attachment in your system. This is a beautiful example of error prevention. And the other one is, uh, I mean, how to recover from them if they mistakenly have done some error, how to recover from them. So undo, undo is where you this undo is where will help the user to recover from any kind of mistake they have done. Okay, we have to really think or really have to take it forward that users will definitely make error, and I have to design my system accordingly so that users can be really uh, the users can really understand what action they have to take. All right, that's it. So we have covered 11 design principles. uh, as I've told you, these are all basic foundation which I just talked about. I want you to go and research more, learn more about it, right? There are enormous amount of um, blogs, articles available which can give you more in-depth understanding about it. So next week we're going to talk about UI design process and UI design research. How exactly, now that you have understand, right? Now that you understand the building blocks of UI design, the key elements of UI design, right? The color, typography, shapes, navigations, and all those things, right? You understand it. And today you have understand the design principles. Tomorrow, next week, we're going to talk about the process of really creating a UI design. What are the steps you should do before you create the UI design, or how do you really create a UI design? What does the process look like, right? That, and then another topic would be UI design research. Now, you might ask, how is it different from UX design research? There is no difference. However, there are slight differences in terms of the aesthetic part of it. Researching on the aesthetic part of it, which is very important for a UI designer to understand. Right, so we'll talk about it this too next week. Thank you so much, and then I'll start with the Q&A now.